On the one hand, we have to present a human aspect to the story and have people understand it. On the other hand, we do this all the time, and there has to be a kind of a sense of distance about it too, that lets us do our jobs and tell people the story. I don't think stories ought to be so analytical they don't get to the human aspect. I also think that stories that deliver the human aspect also need to be at least in part analytical so that people can take all the information in. Every male politician sitting around the table at the healthcare summit was wearing a powder blue tie. And in fact, a number of them were, and this was totally bipartisan. I believe there was Senator McConnell as the Republican leader, as well as President Obama, Vice President Biden, President Bush, former President Bush, most notably used to wear a powder blue tie. Somehow, the powder blue tie has become a signature among politicians, and I was trying to figure out why, because I don't think it can be casual. Remember, these are people, and they were preparing for 8 hours of television coverage on the healthcare summit. These are people who wouldn't get caught, I think I said this on the air, going into a sauna without an American flag lapel pin in their towel. And it just did not occur to me that everybody got up and by coincidence picked a powder blue tie. And Bob Prenner at Ben Silver in Charleston said, you know, red suggests devilry, yellow is very yesterday, navy blue is kind of drab. He says green you should really save for St. Patrick's Day. That's the one day a year politicians wear green ties. He said really pastel blue is the safest. It suggests that there's a sensitive soul lurking somewhere inside, not a drab personality, and yet it's not a color that can offend like red can, some people suggest devilry. I wouldn't begin to suggest for a moment that noticing that every politician, male politician around the table was wearing a powder blue tie was another way of covering the healthcare debate, so much as it was just a kind of just an observation that could be derived from it. But I think it's important because the healthcare debate in this country, well, actually it's been going on for a generation, but I think legislatively here it's been going on for more than a year. And you have to cover that debate, but I think also news organizations ought to cover what it potentially means to people in every strata of society, and those stories are very important. There are 40 million people, I guess, in this country that don't have health care coverage of one kind or another, and I think it's important for news organizations to let people know the consequences of that for everybody, not only in terms of the people who don't have health care coverage and what it means in their lives, but the consequences for everybody else in society because they don't have health care coverage. I think clearly journalism is becoming deprofessionalized. Between the social media platforms like Twitter and Facebook and blogs, it's journalism of one kind or another is being undertaken by people who are not journalists. And on the one hand, this is good. It has a great democratizing effect. It also makes it urgent and instantaneous. When there was an earthquake in Chile just recently, we checked Twitter first thing because we figured, and we were right, that there were people in Chile that would be sending out tweets to people who followed them on Twitter and Facebook. The problem, as I probably don't have to tell you, is I could sit here and tweet out a message saying this reporter who is interviewing me has just put my shoelaces on fire. It's not true. And that's where you have to be careful of hazards. The differences between people who have a reason to get out information and put out misinformation, which journalism is always contended with, and people who are supposed to be our surrogates that way and do it. I think it's obvious that people are no longer just satisfied with the surrogates. They think they can do just as well, and they don't want to have a kind of pompous, what they think of as pompous one-way relationship. They want to be able to push back. What's important to me is that the values of real journalism still survive.